Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Jeremy Scott Fitness Podcast Radio Show, coming to you on this Friday, January the 15th, 2021. Hopefully it finds you staying safe and staying sweaty all at the same time. Today's episode, we are going to quickly talk about different ways to keep making progress in the gym. I stumbled across this infographic a long time ago. It's been kind of buried in my files here, among some other things, but I wanted to drop it all to you guys today, just because obviously it's January, we're kicking off the new year. A lot of you guys are roaring to get back and get fit after the, maybe hiatus you had in 2020 there. And whether you're training in a gym setting or at home, these are just some nice little takeaways to hopefully push you guys to the next level and keep you motivated and helping you make progress, because that's what we're all about here. But before, obviously, I kick into today's episode, again, reminder, the podcast is brought to you by my homies at Athletic Greens. Again, if you guys have not yet jumped on the Athletic Greens, hit me up. I'm happy to have Monica send you a free pack to try at no cost. We literally will put it in an envelope and we'll ship it to you right from our studio that I'm talking in right now, and you can try it and then make the call for yourself. So the offer right now, if you guys want to jump on it, again, the site is always athleticgreens.com/Jeremy Scott. You'll get 5 free travel packs and a year free supply of vitamin D3, which you guys have heard me talk about how important it is to have D3 in your life. We talked Athletic Greens into hooking you guys up with a year supply for free, just for ordering. And again, Athletic Greens, you guys know it's the one thing I take every day. I never miss it. You're talking 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food ingredients just in one scoop. Basically, it's like an all-in-one for you. So instead of taking 15 different pills, you literally just take Athletic Greens, mix it in water, and you slam it. If you really, don't like the greens, squirt a little lemon in there. But honestly, it's the best tasting greens, hands down. It's not even close. In terms of micronutrients, nothing else even compares to it. So if you guys are looking for something to support your immune system, which obviously is ideal, better gut health, better digestion, honestly, an energy boost, brain function, this is what I would take. And again, it does not matter what type of eating style you guys have. If you're a vegetarian, vegan, paleo, keto, it all works. So if you're interested, hit me up. I'm happy to send a link to you guys. And again, we're giving you a free year supply of vitamin D3, which is insane, plus the greens, plus 5 free travel packs. And if you really are unsure, we'll send you some to try. Who else is doing that? No other podcaster, no other fitness person, but we're fucking crazy here and we're happy to help you. So hit me up. Otherwise, the site, athleticgreens.com/Jeremy Scott, to get the free hookups with the greens. And again, you will not be disappointed. Also, the podcast is brought to you by my homies over at Beam CBD. You guys know me. It's the one sleep product I do take. Again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see right here. Again, it's 20 milligrams of the nano CBD, no THC in it. You won't fail a drug test. You won't get high, but it will help you sleep. Also, it's nice because they throw a little bit of the magnesium in there. They throw the melatonin in there and the theanine as well, which is the amino acid that promotes relaxation, calmness, and helps sleep quality. So I can always hook you guys up with 20% off. And if you really want to try the Beam CBD, we talk them into giving you 3 free nights for free. All you gotta do is hit me up. I'll send you guys the link. Try it for yourself. If it helps you sleep better, you can always get it from us at a 20% discount compared to the rest of the world. So that is what we got going on today. Now, as we talk about different ways to make progress in the gym, I want to share something with you here that I threw over on Instagram the other day. I can't remember if I said it here. We're on so many platforms. It all gets mixed up in my head. And it's Friday. I'm tired. I still got a lot of stuff to do. But if I haven't shared it here, I thought it'd be nice to. And if you follow us on Instagram and Facebook and you read the newsletter, you're going to have already heard this or read it, depending on, where you listen to us and follow us most. But it's just talking about empathy. And I wrote this probably 3 years ago. Can't buy my Facebook memories, and I made a quick video just to share it because the world is so divided right now. And I'm not just talking the political stuff, it's anything. It feels like people are just wound super tight and they're just looking to argue for no reason, whether it's, who's better, the Vikings or the Packers, who's the GOAT, Jordan or LeBron, is Die Hard really a Christmas movie? And then people will argue over it. Like, that's what I feel like the world is in today. And the note was just talking about practicing empathy. And so the next time you're in an argument, you're having an issue or a disagreement with somebody, just step back for a second and listen more than you talk. I think that's why, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you listen more than you ramble. Because in every scenario, there's always going to be different viewpoints. So again, it's like if you had parents who are divorced, right? The mom has a story, the dad has a story, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. And I think that's where we all kind of fall with a lot of the shit that's going on in the world. And I always try to practice empathy. I always try to put myself in other people's shoes whenever possible. It helps me understand things from a different viewpoint and at least see things through somebody else's eyes and not just my own. It also helps me see the bigger picture. It's a really simple yet highly effective tactic that very few people do. And it seems these days that common sense really isn't that common anymore. And if nothing else, by doing this, it helps you become more educated, less emotional, in your decision making, in your responses moving forward, and I believe it's going to improve all of your relationships. So practicing empathy can be a super powerful skill that if you harness it, it can make your life run that much smoother. At least it's been my experience, and I think you can do the same thing for you guys. And I say that from a place not of judgment, not telling you how to live your life. Obviously, it's my podcast, so you're going to get my opinion, but I was not always this person. I used to be just a young, angry, naive, negative, ignorant asshole who thought the world owed me something, and I had this victim mentality, and I was just pissed off, and I would be probably the person quick to argue if there would have been the internet back then, and just talk shit and get in these, visceral debates about my opinion versus your opinion. And you see that's what people are doing. And if you want to do that, that's fine. I personally believe there's much better use of your time. And I don't think you've ever convinced anybody to join your side when you argue on the internet. Like, if someone is a diehard Packers fan, I'm not going to sit and scream at them, telling them why they should love the Vikings. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, you've never flipped anybody. All you're doing is just creating noise. And I think most of us are pretty cool. Most of us are pretty chill and are pretty positive. It's just the extremes on both ends of every spectrum. And so instead of getting in arguments and fights, step back, sit, listen, and then respond how you feel like you need to. But wasting your life arguing with people on the internet, I just think there's a lot better use of your time, effort, and energy. And if we know your health is the most important thing in the world, and your time is probably the second most important commodity, just make sure you're spending it wisely. And at the end of the day, by doing this, it just helps you not be an asshole. It just makes you a nicer person. And if you look at how we would get through any crisis, any dilemma, any scenario, it's just being a kind, nice human being who listens before they talk. Just my 2 cents as we move into 2021 here. So, 2 other things real quick. One, we got an athlete here. Let's call her Jen. Maybe the names are real. Maybe they're not. Who knows? But her and her husband did a really cool thing to start the year off here that I just wanted to float out here. Not that you guys even give a shit, but just kind of the pay it forward mentality. Now, they're fortunate enough to make money and live a pretty good life here. And they came to me at the end of last year, so a couple weeks back, and we're like, hey, we'd like to donate a membership to somebody who is in need. We don't have to necessarily know them or who they are, but somebody who maybe used to come here and lost their job during the pandemic, or has fell on hard times and really needs to be active, needs to be part of the community, and maybe stop their membership because financially it just didn't fit what they were trying to do right now. And so obviously Monica and I went through our list of people, and we found somebody to bring back into the fold who The husband ran their own business and it really slowed down during this, and they were furloughed from their job. And now, because of Jen and her husband, they can come back into the community and be active here and get all the benefits, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and emotional. And I thought that was super cool, because I have seen a lot of our athletes here do different stuff over the years, but that's the first time I have ever seen that and experienced that and been able to give that to somebody else, for them to, sponsor basically an athlete to come here and work out and train and get their life back to some semblance of normalcy after the shit year of 2020. I thought that was pretty fucking cool. So shout out to Jen and her husband for that. It's a pretty cool thing. And it's things like that we can do to other people. And I don't just mean the money stuff, but when you're in a position to help somebody, and all of us are, in some way, shape, or form, I think you should do that. And the more you can do it, that spreads like wildfire, man. Karma's a real thing. I believe in it. And I think the more good you do in the world, the more good comes back to you. And it just makes it feel like people give a shit. Because I do really think we do at the end of the day. And so just want to share that quick story with you as I get into different ways for you guys to make progress in the gym. I'm going to go relatively quick here. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. A lot of these are things you guys know or should know, but maybe you just don't think about in your own programming, in your own fitness. If you're training at home still, if your gyms are closed down or you don't feel comfortable to go back, whatever the situation may be, and just make a mental note of these, or maybe jot some of the notes down, or pause the podcast and say, okay, I can do this with my own training as I move forward into the new year. And the last thing on my notes here, real quick before I go, somebody was asking me, obviously on Instagram the other day, about shoes and what I thought were the best training shoes. I've talked about this before. This has nothing to do with today's podcast, but I told him I would mention it here. I was going to do a Q&A podcast, but I don't have enough time today to get through all the questions. I got about 50 questions from you guys, which I thank you very much for those. But on the shoes, I think the best training shoes that I personally like are the Reebok Nanos. Now, if I could go back and get the originals, which I still have about 10 pairs, and the Gen 2s, those are probably my favorite. As they've evolved, some of the Nanos I love, some of the Nanos I don't like, but I do think the Reebok Nanos are probably the best training shoe overall if you're going to squat, deadlift, then jump rope, and do dynamic movements, because they're a minimalist style shoe. Typically they're flat. They do have enough heel support for me personally. So I would say those are probably my favorite. I do love the Noble trainers, some of them not so much. I love them to walk around in. I love them to work in. I like them to travel in. So they're probably my next on the list. I've never tried the Nike Metcon, so I can't speak on that. I basically was a Reebok guy for 7 years, if you guys know. I was the Reebok for 7 years, and that's basically all I wore for 7 straight years. From underwear to socks to shoes to everything. I was a Reebok dude. And then when we ended our relationship with Reebok, at least like at the level it was at, I started to get into some of the Noble stuff and those things. But the Nanos do hold up. I've hiked the Grand Canyon in them. I've deadlifted in them. I've squatted in them. They make good shit. So I do think the Nanos are the best. I love the 2s. And probably the 1's my favorite. And if you're looking, they do retro some of them, but typically any of them are fine. So hopefully that answered your question on the shoes. The last thing, I know I said it already. Mark Bell had posted a little quote and a phrase and a saying he's been saying over and over again through 2020, and I find it just as true in 2021, as I've been super busy this year to start. Obviously, our business has looked a lot different than maybe I envisioned it, and the beauty of the internet has been great. We've been able to do a lot of amazing things, but I found myself very busy with certain tasks and projects, and some days I'm just tired and I'm just run down. And if you take on all the new changes and things that are going on in the world, it's a lot obviously to chew on. And the one thing that he would always say and harp on that stuck with me was lift through it. And that would be the phrasing. So like if you're having a shitty day, lift through it. You're having a problem, something's going on, lift through it. And that's the way that I took it. I interpret it to you guys as just train through it. If something's going on, I always feel better after I train. Even if I'm tired, I'm run down, and again, I'm not saying, make yourself sick and go crazy, but if you find yourself being out of whack, out of sync, things are going wrong, when I train, the endorphins come, I get this natural high. I just feel better after a workout, even if it's only 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of something. Just hopping on the bike and riding it, just train through it. I feel better. I feel like I accomplished something. I'm in a better mental state. There's some clarity there. There's a sense of accomplishment. On the days where if I didn't get to train the way that I wanted to, or maybe it was cut short because of something, I just don't feel right. I just feel off. And so the phrasing lift through it, or train through it, if you will, I think is a mantra and something you can hold with you as you kind of move through 2021 here. Just keep training through it, you guys. Especially on the days you don't want to do something. Those are the days that they matter the most. Those are the ones that they bank. They compound and they end up making you the fit, resilient, badass person you're going to be in the future. So if all else fails, you're having a shit day, 14 things go wrong, just train through it and keep on going. Don't make an excuse. Don't say why you can't do it. Don't punt it till the next day. Just train through it. And obviously, if you're hurt and injured, don't take that literally. Don't be a dumbass, but you guys get where I'm going with it. And I thought that was cool. So, because the other day I was super tired. I think it was it Wednesday? I was just exhausted. I didn't want to do anything. And I'm like, you know what? I got 50 minutes for free. And I got done with the workout and I had 2 more people here to meet with. And then I got done. I'm like, you know what? I feel way better. And I'm like, just fucking live through it, man. And I just kept saying it to myself over and over again. I had a great workout and felt like a productive day. So maybe it can help you guys do the same. With that, different ways to make progress in the gym. Simple stuff. All things you know. If you're talking outside of the gym, eat real food, for sure. Take the proper supplements. Get quality sleep. Do your mobility. Do your foam rolling. Have a program that makes sense. Get a goal. Have accountability, have a coach, have a community, have a friend who will push you. Outside the scope of that, specific things you can do. 1, if you're lifting, you're loading, you're doing some form of strength training, which you should be doing some version of that every week in your program, or whether it's 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever you like. Whatever fits your goals and what you're trying to do. Increase the weight as you go. So, the easiest example we could give you, maybe it's week 1. You're doing goblet squats. You're doing 3 sets of 10 at 40 pounds, taking a minute rest in between. Maybe on week 2, you do 3 sets of 10 at 45 pounds with the same minute rest in between. In week 3, maybe you do 3 sets of 10 at 50 pounds with the same minute rest in between. Now, all we did is increase the load. That's the most basic. That's the one probably everybody's used to. That's the one everybody knows. I didn't even have to say it, but I threw it out there in case you're not challenging yourself. Now, at some point, you're going to reach an apex in your training. You're going to reach a point of critical mass where you just can't do anymore. That's it. You're capped out. Genetically, you can't, you're deadlifting 600 pounds and that's it. And that's where these other metrics are going to come into play and be so important. But at first, it's gradually increasing the weight as you go. And then we can talk about, tapering and deload weeks and stuff later on. But for you guys who are listening, who haven't been doing this, just these small 5-pound increment increases week by week is going to be a game changer. So the sets are the same, the reps are the same, but the load is the variable. So increasing your squat 5 pounds per week, maybe increasing your overhead press 5 pounds per week can be a game changer. That's a way for you to make progress. Next on the list, more reps or sets. Now we're talking about volume increase here. So we'll go squats for the same example. Maybe that first week you're doing, let's say split squats, because they're the worst and the best at the same time. So 3 sets of 10 at 40 pounds. Okay, so you got 40-pound dumbbells in each hand. You're doing 3 sets of 10 in the left leg, 3 sets of 10 in the right leg. Week number 2 comes. You're going to go 3 sets of 12. So this is where it gets spicy. So again, same 40-pound dumbbells. So the load is the same. We're not changing the weight So the load is not the variable, it's the volume. You're doing 3 sets of 12 on the left leg, and then 3 sets of 12 on the right leg. And then we come to week number 3. Maybe you're gonna mess with the sets now instead of just the reps. So you're gonna go 4 sets of 10 with the 40s on the left leg, and then 4 sets of 10 on the right leg. And then maybe obviously in the 4th week, you can go 4 sets of 12. Personally, I prefer doing more sets than the higher reps. And I know that might sound strange, but this is a personal preference, because I feel mentally better if the reps are lower and I can still take the minute rest in between or the 90 seconds in between, whatever the rest may be. I personally like kind of that 10 rep range. I think there's some magic that happens around there. Not that I don't think you can get a lot of 12, 15, 20 reps, because you can, and I do the high volume stuff, but admittedly I fucking hate it because it's hard. It burns. That's what really gets me over time. If you said, Jeremy, what would you rather do? Grab 200-pound dumbbells in each hand, so 200 pounds, and do split squats of 5 reps on the left leg and 5 on the right? Or would you rather do 20 reps of body weight on the left and right leg? I'll take the 100 pounds all day, dude. Even though it's miserable, even though it's tough, it's challenging, it's painful, I personally prefer that pain over the high volume pain. You know, everybody's different. Some people like mid-range stuff, some people like low reps, high reps. I just tend to do better with that. But that all works, and that's what I'm saying to you is play to your strengths some weeks and mess with the load, and then some weeks drop it and play with the volume and see where your weaknesses are at. That's how we get better. We find what the holes in our game are. I've talked about this before many times. I talked about it with Hannah when she was in the podcast. I literally almost quit a men's health program because there was so many fucking split squats in there. It just was murdering me. And then I decided for 1 year to do split squats every single day. And that bulletproofed my legs. And now I can do anything comes my way. It doesn't matter. But I found, okay, man, I was used to loading the split squats, like heavy, slow, and controlled with a good amount of rest in between. It's when that volume picked up and the rest time cut short, which is my next point I'll touch on, that's what started to get me. And so that's when my legs really started to change. They started to really look different. They really started to get strong. I really just started to become a different animal, I guess, if you will. So the more reps and more sets is another way you can make great progress in the gym while keeping the load exactly the same. Because many people get confused, and that's probably the 2 biggest ones. How do I get stronger? How do I get better? And people will say, well, I have to increase the weight and I have to increase the reps and the sets. Well, eventually you can't do that, because eventually you don't have the genetic capacity to get any stronger. We all have a limit. I don't care who you are, from Arnold to me to you. We all have a limit to how strong we can be. Even the world's strongest man, at some point he's capped out. And then there comes another point where you can't add any more reps or sets because you're gonna be working out for 7 hours. You can't do, oh, this week it's 4 sets of 10, next week it's 5 sets of 10. Well, eventually you're gonna do, what, 100 sets of 10? It doesn't work. Or you're gonna do 15 sets of 25? You either A, won't have enough time because you have a job and a wife and kids, or 2, you have no life and you're a complete loser and you can train 5 hours a day, but your body just breaks down because it can't recover. And so that's why we're talking about all the different ways to make progress. The third one, decreasing the rest in between the sets. Now, this is the tough one for a lot of people. So if you're talking hypertrophy, how to build muscle, maybe 60 to 90 seconds rest in between sets, depending on what the movement is. Things that are compound, squats, deadlifts, probably a little bit longer, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, who knows, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing heavy strength stuff like 5-3-1 or German volume training, there's a million different protocols. I don't want to get lost in details and throw out a bunch of gibberish here that doesn't mean anything without context. But if you're talking most of the rest between sets for people, 60, 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, that's probably the average. So if week 1 you're in a normal kind of training program and you're taking 90 seconds of rest between sets, so let's say you're doing goblet squats, like heavy goblet squats for you guys, half your body weight. You weigh 200 pounds, you're doing 100-pound goblet squats for sets of 8 to 10 or 12, give or take. You take 90 seconds rest in between for week 1. Week 2 comes, maybe it's just 85 seconds rest in between sets. And then week 3 comes, maybe it's just 80 seconds of rest between the sets. So you see where I'm going? You're slowly cutting down that rest time each week. That to me is one of the toughest ones. And a lot of people don't think about that. And you have to be really diligent if you're gonna play with the rest time. Most people aren't. They're not on a timer. And you don't need to, obviously, like we own the space here, so I have a huge clock and it tells us 3, 2, 1, go, 3, 2, 1, rest. Like it's down to the second. If you're at a gym and you're training, or you're on your own, and you don't have this on a timer and you let your brain wander, 3-4 minutes is gonna go by like that, because something will happen. If you're a person who checks their phone or email during training, you're really gonna struggle with this. It's really tough to do. You have to have it on a timer. Maybe it's like Tabatas Pro, or I'm trying to think of the other timers. Gym Next. There's a lot of timers you can use. There's a million free apps out there, but just really setting the clock. So when you have the clock going, let's say you're doing your bench press, you're taking 90 seconds in between. You do the bench press reps, you look at the clock and you go, say, okay, a minute and a half from now, I'll get back on the bench press. And that's your first week. Then the next week comes, you're going through your bench press. Okay, now it's only 85 seconds. And it's these gradual changes. They don't have to be drastic. They don't have to be huge, but they do have to be changes. That's how you guys are gonna make progress. So increasing the weight, more reps, more sets, or decreasing the rest time in between what you're used to. And this can be on a bigger scale too. If you normally do like sprinting intervals, maybe you do a sprint interval and you take 4 minutes between the sets. Maybe you mess with it and you just take 3:45 or 3:30 over time. So you're gradually moving the needle, depending on your protocol and your program, and obviously what you guys want to get done with it. The next one, and this is probably the most important, stronger mental mindset. What does that mean? It's the way we think about training. It's the language we use when we talk about ourselves. A lot of people are guilty of this. Your own worst enemy. And you negatively self-talk and you're dreading everything. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect with this, because there's days here where I'm like, this sucks. And that's just how it's gonna be. And you gotta bite the bullet, dude. You just gotta go to your pain cave and become somebody else. You know, go somewhere in your mind and hang on to your dark passenger for a ride, because that's what you gotta do. And what I'm saying is, when you look at your training, when you look at the program, when you look at what's gonna happen for the day, the first week you get into a real program, like something that's gonna challenge you, the phrasing is like, shit, this is gonna suck, man. And that's how you talk to yourself. And there might always be things that's how you speak to yourself, and that's okay. But overall, that's how a lot of people look at training. And they look at the tough workouts like, shit, this is gonna really suck. And then week 2, it turns into, this is a really hard day, but I'm ready for it. And just that change of mindset, that change of language is everything. And then the third week, it's like, that's not so bad. We've done worse. So you're starting to kind of change how you think about it, how you process it, how you compartmentalize the pain, how you're mentally kind of going through the workout before you even do it. What's the order I'm gonna go in? Where are the parts that are gonna be super painful? What are the ones that I'm gonna be able to just crush? Here's where I can recover. And you start to think about it almost methodically, if you will. And then week 4, you're like, hey, I'm getting stronger, fuck it. I can crush this. And that's the language you start to have. And every day won't be that. Every day won't be perfect. That does take practice. It takes almost like that, the Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality, if you will, or the David Goggins approach, just like, fuck it, you got to do it. But as you can start to, feel different and think about it differently and talk to yourself differently, like, hey man, I've done 100 cals in the assault bike before. I got this. Hey man, I push a sled further with heavier weight and shorter amount of time. This is nothing to me. I can do this. It's like all the training prepares you for the week after week after week. But if you're only going through the physical aspect of it and not the mental part of it, you're always going to be beat down. You're always going to be kind of behind the eight ball. So you have to look at it from a place of like, I can get better here. I can make a change here. I've done things worse than this, and this is nothing to me. And even if it's just you hyping yourself up, doing incantations or whatever you have to do, trust me, over time it works. Next one, increase your range of motion and your flexibility. This is why on Instagram, a lot of the days, you guys, I'll just post myself a quick photo, mandatory mobility, just to remind you of how important it is that you have to keep doing it over time if you want to have increased range of motion and better flexibility. And not just for life, which I think is the most important, so you're not, struggling to get up and down to play with your kids or to get out of bed. You want to keep your joints healthy and loose and have good tissue quality, but if you want to really look your best, perform your best, be your strongest, be able to hike up and down mountains, be able to ride a bike, be able to swim, be able to, get as much out of each muscle group as possible, you have to have good mobility. The greater the mobility, the greater the hypertrophy, the greater the muscle tissue you're going to destroy, and the more benefits you're going to reap, the better you're going to look over time. Elongated muscles, nice stretched muscle bellies, making you stronger over time. So you don't want to just go through half ranges of motion, because then we're only touching half the tissue. You're never going to be able to look the best you can look or feel the best you can ever feel. What I mean by this is when you have better range of motion, better mobility, better flexibility, you have deeper squats. That's a key. So if you can squat 2 inches deeper, your body's gonna get that much stronger. You're gonna touch that much more muscle tissue. Even if you get to the point where you wanna, if you're a deadlift and you can master the deadlift, right? Deficit deadlifts, decline push-ups, things that we don't think about, increased ankle mobility, increased hip, shoulder mobility. Those things are key when you overhead press, when you do pull-ups, just by doing calf raises, basic lateral movement so you can squat properly. These are all things where if your shoulders are tight, your thoracic spine is tight, your glutes are tight, you're gonna get this referred back pain, this referred knee pain, and you're gonna shy away from movements you normally would do because they don't feel good. So when you can move the body through full range of motion, that's pain-free, you can do anything. And then sky's the limit, because you're getting deeper on every press, every push, every pull. Does that make sense what I'm saying? When you're restricted, you can't go anywhere. It's like, if you want to think of, this season of life we're in, like you've been restricted to your community or your town or your country, you haven't been able to travel and fly and go places, it makes your circle so small. And that's the same thing with your body, right? When you look at it, if you're only squatting, 10 inches above parallel, how strong can you really get? How much hamstring can you really develop? How much quad can you really develop? How much glute can you build? When you have a bigger range of motion, your body is free to move through space. And then it unlocks this whole nother level that a lot of people aren't getting to. And that's a lot of people's biggest problem. They can't squat to depth. They can't overhead press. They can't fully push. They can't fully pull because the tissue is so tight. They're so bound up because they haven't taken the time to increase their range of motion and have better flexibility and mobility through life. And you guys need that. That's why I harp on it so much. And that's a great way to make progress in the gym. Even if you never got stronger, which you will, by the way, having a better range of motion, I believe, makes a better quality of life. And the last one real quick before we go, the change in your tempo. And this one is probably the most painful and one that a lot of people don't want to do. Because everybody wants to move fast and quick, and everything is hit this or Tabata's that and fat loss this, and that's all great. And you can still do those protocols with changing the speed. And if you guys have listened to the podcast for a long time, you'll hear me say the phrases speed, load, tempo, volume, things like this. This is all what I'm talking about here. And I've mentioned all these things before. I'm just trying to package them in this specific way so it really drills home. If you're in 2021 you've just started, new year, new you, it's a resolution, you're trying to get into a program. These are things you can take and apply to a program that you did last year. That makes it a completely different program. You can take something that you did for 10 years and you can mess with the tempo and the speed of it. It's a game changer. And what I'm talking about is slowing down the eccentric, think of it this way. If you're squatting, right? And you normally squat at a pace of 1 second down, 1 second up. If you slow down the eccentric phase, the lowering part of the exercise with greater control, and you, instead of squatting 1 second down, 1 second up, you squat 3 seconds down, 3, 2, 1, the bottom, and then you shoot back up. Now what we've done is we've created more control of the body, more time under tension, leading to higher muscle damage. And that's what I was talking about with the increased range of motion and flexibility and mobility. And so when you have this higher muscle damage, more muscle growth, i.e. you look better. You see what I'm saying here? That's how you build muscle. That's how you become leaner. That's how you become stronger. So if we're talking about split squats, instead of just banging them out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, super quick, slow, 3, 2, 1, bottom knee hits the ground. You can come up quick if you want, and then down again, slow, 3, 2, 1, and then up. That way you can keep the same reps. You can keep the same load. You can keep the same sets if you want. Shit, you can keep the same rest time. But just by slowing down the movement, your quads, hamstrings, and glutes have to be under tension for 3 more additional painful seconds. That's where you get better. That's what separates the people who make changes from the people who don't make changes. Because they're not just always doing the same shit. They're willing to put themselves in a pain cave and just sit and cry there for a minute. That's what I'm talking about. When I do stuff here, again, I'm to the point where the load for me is not really going to increase too much. If I lift any heavier, something's going to rip or tear or pop, and that's not good for anybody. And I don't want to deal with that. But I can slow down the way that I deadlift. I can slow down the way that I squat, the way that I press, the way that I do pull-ups. All these things can be controlled with tempo. And I say eccentric, which is the slowing, the lowering down of the pattern. If you really hate yourself, like I do most days, you can control the concentric, that bottom force, right? So if you're loading split squats or loading a squat, start at the very bottom, like an Anderson squat, I guess, if you had it on the back. But the concentric is slowing the raising phase of a pattern. So when you're at the bottom of a squat, you have a dumbbell. So grab a dumbbell, for example, and go sit in the bottom of a squat and then slowly raise up. So from the bottom to the top, slowly come up that 3, 2, 1 as you're raising yourself up. And you can come down quick if you want to, but slowly raising yourself up. And if you really, really want to be in some misery, like you're on a whole level of, masochism, like you're really into self-abuse, take a light load. If we're going to squat, goblet squat, I say squatting and goblet squatting because the lower body stuff is obviously always the worst, but we do this with dumbbell bench press protocols all the time as well. Down slow, 3, 2, 1 at the bottom. Hold it for a second. Then when you come up, slowly raise up, 3, 2, 1, up. And now you're living in a real miserable place where the eccentric phase is terrible and the concentric phase is terrible. So if you guys are stuck at home, you're training in your home gym, which is dumbbells and kettlebells, you don't got access to a lot of equipment or loads and things, and you want to keep making progress, you can do all the above mentioned. But if you just had body weight and some basic light weights, slowing down the concentric lowering phase and slowing down the eccentric, the lowering phase, and slowing down the concentric, the raising phase of the pattern, that can make your life miserable really quick. We filmed a series the other day with Heather. She filmed me doing these split squats, like a minute split squats. So 1 rep in 1 minute. The worst. And I think raising, so the concentric coming up phase slower is way worse than going down, because gravity is going to help you go down for sure. You're fighting gravity on the way up. That's what sucks. So what I'm saying is on these split squats, I was doing body weight, 30 seconds on the way down, back knee taps the floor, and 30 seconds on the way up. I mean, the amount of shaking and muscle fibers I could see just rippling through my legs and how painful it was. It's a miserable experience, but that's how you get better. And those are all things you can do when you're stuck at home, traveling on the road, in a hotel, or again, if you don't have access to a gym or you don't want to go to one. These are all great ways for you guys to make progress. Is it fun? No, but that's none of the stuff we do in the gym is fun, right? Not the stuff that makes us change anyway. Like, we love it in some, sadistic kind of like hate yourself way, but it's not really fun. So again, to recap this really quick to let you guys go, increasing weight each week of your lifts, 40 pounds to 45 pounds to 50 pounds, increasing the reps or sets, whether it's 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12, or 4 sets of 10 as you go through the weeks. Decreasing the rest time, taking it from 2 minutes to half a minute to a minute, depending on the lift. Having a better mindset, the way that you speak about yourself, not like, oh fuck, I gotta go train today, this sucks. That's a terrible way to look at it. It's talking to yourself like, I get the opportunity to go train today. I have the ability to train. I have the opportunity to go sweat and to move, because a lot of people don't. And I don't want to get serious here, but there's a lot of people who are sick, a lot of people who are in wheelchairs, who are paralyzed, who don't get to run and jump and move and skip and do the shit that you do. They trade places with you in a heartbeat to go ride the assault bike. So stop saying like, oh shit, this sucks, I have to do this today. You don't have to do anything. You're a grown-ass adult. You're choosing to go train. You have the opportunity to train. That's the gift, my friends. Changing your mindset, the way that you think about it. And again, some of this stuff is always going to suck. I'm the first one to say it, but we still have the ability to gut through it, and a lot of other people don't. Increasing range of motion and mobility. Having more flexibility and mobility in your life, better tissue quality makes the overall quality of your life better. And the last one, messing with the speed, the tempo of which you train, how long, how much time under tension you can take before you crack and crumble. And that can be done with lightweight or no weight at all. Honestly, body weight, you can crush yourself if you really control the speeds. And those are game changers. So again, just 6 ways you guys can make massive progress in the gym as you begin the new year. So if you guys got any questions on those, obviously hit me up. I'm happy to dig deeper on them as we go. And again, like Mark Bell just said, live through it, train through it. We all got some shit to deal with this year. It hasn't been perfect. It's not going to be perfect. I don't know if it ever has been or it ever will be, but just train through it, and you'll be okay, and you'll feel better once you do. So again, reminder, the podcast brought to you by my homies at Beam CBD. If you guys want to try the CBD product I take to sleep every night, the Dream specifically, hit me up. I'll get you a link for 3 free nights. Otherwise, I always get you 20% off. And again, if you guys have not yet gotten Athletic Greens, it's the best all-in-one vitamin supplement you can take. And we'll give you a packet for free to try, and we can hook you up with a year's supply of vitamin D3 and 5 free travel packs. A pretty badass offer. And I'm happy to offer it as long as I can. If it makes you guys a little bit healthier and a little bit happier, let's do it. So if you're on the podcast app, drop me a 5-star, leave a comment. I'd appreciate it. Share this with a friend or family member who wants to train to make progress or feels like they're not making progress and they're kind of stuck in a training rut. Have them listen to this, and I think it can kind of refresh their training and what they're currently doing and what they can do moving forward in the new year. So YouTubers, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I got to eat something and maybe call it a day here. So I'll check in with you guys tomorrow, most likely, or Sunday with Heather with a new episode. But until next time, eat well, train hard, be nice to people, and please, you guys, keep doing shit you love with people you enjoy, because your life is too short not to. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.